have actually been a customer of BetterHelp for a little.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lodge, where today we are talking all things Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I've got quite the cast of characters joining me today. But before we introduce them, let's give a shout out to the Sages of the Lodge, the beautiful names you see up on your screen right now, those who donate as little as $1 a month to keep my nonsense going. But anyway, with all of that said, let's just get into this. It's the age of FF7, everybody. Please allow me to introduce our amazing guests. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, we were talking about other things.
We weren't talking about character customizations at all.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not. Well, look, I probably should have given you guys a little warning before I jumped in.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're here.
It's fine. We're here. So anyway, let's introduce everybody. Andy, why don't we start with you?
So my name's AndyBru. Thank you for inviting me back into the Lodge with these wonderful people in here today. Yeah, I'm a variety streamer for the most part. I occasionally make other videos. I kind of just do whatever I want, involving the things that I like. So love Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, World Ends With You. A big Crash Bandicoot nut when it comes to that stuff, and just all kinds of things under the sun. We just love playing games. And yeah, that's basically what I do over on the channel. So.
There we go. Kai, let's move on over to you.
What's up, guys? It is Kai, the player. And if you guys don't know who I am, I've been here twice. And me and Landy, we got a cool relationship going. One of the few people in the community that I vibe with. He likes Legend of Zelda. So do I. My favorite Final Fantasy is IX. I do a lot of Final Fantasy VII coverage. And despite what people say, I am looking forward to playing Final Fantasy 16.
Kitties, you're up.
Hi, I'm Kitties, and I'm bad at introducing myself. No, I'm kidding. But I'm not. So yeah, I am KittiesinMitties. I like a lot of things. I'm a huge Zack Fair stan. So he is my favorite character to ever exist. If you couldn't tell. If you didn't know. I love him. I love Kingdom Hearts. I love The World Ends With You. I really am a huge fan of Disney and stuff like that. Currently, I'm playing through Persona 5 Royal for the first time and also Fire Emblem 3 Houses. So if you're into those, that's what I'm up to, as well, alongside of data battles for Kingdom Hearts 3 on Critical Level 1. That's me. I like lots of things.
Also a big Ferdinand stan. Just feel like
yes,
worth pointing out.
Yes, this is my husband, Ferdinand von Eyre.
30 in the house. Faye, you're up.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me, Landy. It's good to hang out with you all. My name's Faye. You can also call me Carly or Faye. I love Final Fantasy. I've actually been playing the whole series for the first time this year, so it's been really, really lovely to actually get to know so many lovely characters and understand why so many people love this franchise, and now I'm absolutely obsessed. My other big obsession is Kingdom Hearts. I love that franchise so deeply, and yeah, I'm currently going through a whole Square Enix journey. I just kind of want to tick them all off my list, and yeah, we stream a lot of those on Twitch. But
yeah, you've been absolutely crushing it. And last but not least, Manny, what's going on, man?
Yo, my name is Manny, but you can call me Unknown, whatever you prefer. And I am a Final Fantasy fan, just like everyone else here. Final Fantasy VII was actually the first game I played in my entire life. And that was a terrible first game to play because I died immediately. And I was like, what the heck is going on right now? But ever since then, I've always been a huge fan of Final Fantasy. And I'm just super excited to hear you guys' spicy takes today, because I know you guys are holding on to something real good to talk about.
Someone's always cooking something in the Landy Lodge.
And
that's just how it works.
And the FF7 devs make it easy these days, you know? Since we're not necessarily just retracing our steps, who knows what's coming our way. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. The first scene we saw from that trailer with Barret, Tifa, Red, and Aerith on stretchers. I can't get that out of my head. I still don't quite know what to make of it. I've heard lots of takes. Some people are like, oh, they're dead. Oh, they're not dead. Is this how the game ends? I don't know. I'm inclined to think that knowing what they like to do, we might see an ending like that. Because given that this is the second game in a trilogy, probably means we're going to get a very unhappy ending. Usually in a trilogy, the second installment leaves you on a negative cliffhanger, so that it can round itself out in the final installment and you look forward to the hero's comeback. But I don't know. Do any of you have particular thoughts about the whole stretcher scene? Just chime on in. Don't raise your hands. It's in a classroom.
Yeah, whoever.
everyone's hands are up.
Well, I think Andy and I have the same idea, but go ahead.
All right. So I rewatched the first trailer, the one that came out last year, the teaser trailer, and in it, Aerith basically says, like, don't worry about the past. Like, you just can't do anything to change that. But the future, even though the future might be written a certain way, we can always change it. And then with the second trailer, we see the events where they're on the stretcher. perhaps there is a future in which they're supposed to die, but you can change the future because it hasn't been set in stone yet. But then there's this whole scene that happens when Sephiroth comes on when they're on the cargo ship, and you have the talking where he's like, Genova, she can manipulate, she can turn into people, even ones you love. And then right after, you hear them, oh, Tifa, and then the Japanese version saying she's dead, like he killed her. And then the whole idea that Cloud wasn't in Nibelheim, but Tifa wasn't there right now. So from what I can tell, the devs kind of want to keep us going towards the what is fact, what is fiction. But what I think they're also doing, just kind of going based on writing, is that they're trying to, well, trick us, but they're also giving us clues. Talking about Genova, but then also showing glimpses of Cloud, to me indicates a few things. Either Genova has transformed into one of the party members to trick us into believing, or perhaps something else is going on. So right now, I think two things. Either Cloud has been transformed, or Tifa has been transformed, and or Cloud is being made to assume that Tifa's dead because of Genova. But either or, I think Genova is like the key element that was missing from the original FF7, since it was mostly Sephiroth in control of Genova. But I think Genova is more in the story versus the previous. But that's all I got right now.
I was gonna. Oh, go ahead. Landon.
No, you.
I was gonna say about your comment with the first shot that we see in the trailer. I think what's happening. I don't think it's an end. I actually think it's the beginning of the game. But I'm a believer in the two timeline theory. I think that shot is Zack's timeline, where everyone's dead because it's after the whole incident on the highway. And so it's like, wait, at the end of remake, we saw them walking out of Midgar. So like, why is everybody like, this didn't happen? Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. I think it's Zack's timeline, whatever you want to call it. Nothing's confirmed, but that's just what I believe. And I think it's that's the result of Zack surviving. Like, because Zack survives, everyone else dies or something bad happens to everybody else,
Can I chime something in that gives credence to that?
Yeah.
Because I kind of was thinking something like that too, and maybe because Zack is alive now, Cloud didn't go on the missions with Avalanche, and because of that, since he's like sort of the linchpin in the story, because he didn't go on those missions with Avalanche, Avalanche failed.
Question though, if he didn't go on the missions with Avalanche, why would Aerith be there with them?
I kind of thought the same thing.
That's a good point.
No, it's a good
That's a good point. I was thinking the other thing I was thinking, maybe we'll talk about this later, but the shot where you see Cloud in like their reunion garb walking to the crater. I also think that is part of the Zack timeline, because that doesn't happen in FF7. Like, Sephiroth like takes control of Cloud at one point, or like, he messes with him throughout the entire game, but you never see like that specifically happen where like he's actually like a part of like the Genova reunion gang, whatever the heck you want to call them, going to the crater. And so I'm also a believer in, or I don't want to say believer, this is like my copium like prediction that there's going to be a timeline convergence at the end of the game, or like somehow, I don't know how, it's Final Fantasy, it'll happen, maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know, but I want to believe that there's going to be some kind of like convergence of the timelines where like Zack and Cloud will like team up and like fight Sephiroth or Genova or something at the end. And it would kind of make sense if like, because the craters were like, a lot of things happen, and so Cloud and company they're already on. What happens in FF7? Like that they're going to eventually be on their way to the crater. Well, now if that is in Zack's timeline where Cloud is is there in the reunion garb and everyone else is dead, now Zack has a reason to venture to the crater because now he's trying to save Cloud. Cloud and company are trying to hunt down Sephiroth. Cloud potentially gives Sephiroth the black materia. You know, I don't know if anything's going to be different with that. There could be some kind of convergence, and so that's like my copium prediction, because I don't want to say 100% believe, but I'm pretty confident that I think Zack is going to be playable at some point in this game.
I'm
And I
with
don't
you
know.
there, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
just because I love him.
Well, I don't know how much of it. I think it's mostly just going to be FF7 with like, but it's going to be set up like maybe Final Fantasy VIII, where you have like your Laguna bits, but it's like your Zack bits, you know. That's just me.
I have a thought really fast.
Yeah.
Floor's
So
yours,
this
man.
is my copium take. What if the directors of the game gave us as viewers Mako poisoning, so we're just as confused as everyone else trying to figure it out right
Yes.
now?
Manny,
Because
yes.
like I feel like this trailer, like the first one with theories, made so much more sense to me with the way that they went when the game actually came out.
Mhm.
This trailer, I feel like it's just so much more cryptic, and I'm like, I feel like they're just doing it on purpose at this point. Like they
100%.
like. So I'm a firm believer, and this is probably like the least popular opinion. I think that there's one timeline, but multiple perspectives of that same timeline. If that makes any sense, rather than split timelines completely, almost like a divergence. But the reason I can't support that opinion is because the opening scene to the second trailer of them literally being on a stretcher, even though it doesn't happen at the end of the first game. And I was like, this literally completely nullifies that. And it's kind of hard for me to kind of grasp onto anything. And then to follow up what Andy said, just about Zack eventually converging into the original timeline with everyone else. And this too, they do visit Gongaga. And I think that would be a really dope place for Zack to already be, talking potentially like to his parents or something like that, like what's going on right now, and for them to kind of walk in. And I don't know. I just have so many thoughts right now, but like not to get too far from the original scene with the tornadoes that wiped out the 3 sections. But I really think that there's just something that they're cooking up that's going to be like a huge plot twist.
This ain't no classroom, Kai. Just chime in, man.
All right. Okay. So, has everyone here seen Back to the Future?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So, you know, good movie, Michael J. Fox. Let's go. Now, one thing that was like always interesting to me was how does a series do time or anything without making it feel like a huge plot hole? Dragon Ball Z did the worst possible time because it was a split timeline and it became a big plot hole because I'm a big Dragon Ball fan and I realized that it doesn't make sense. But without going too much into that, basically, to go back to the Back to the Future example, Marty goes back to the past and he interferes with how his parents are supposed to meet, which causes a new set of events, right? Because he doesn't exist yet, this actually starts to rewrite his history, and it's happening in real time to where he almost doesn't exist. He shows the picture of him and his family members disappearing, but then once his dad sticks up for himself, they reappear. And at first you're like, oh, okay, everything's the same, right? But when Marty goes back to the present, everything changed to the point where now his dad is the G, the bully Biff is now the wuss who's being bossed around by Marty's dad. He has the nice car. The mom is satisfied in a relationship. A lot of changes, but it's the same singular timeline. And the second movie, they go into it where a change occurs in the present, but they're in the future. Someone goes back to the past. And then when Marty goes back to his present, it causes a split, but it's still a singular timeline. But now it's more confusing. But the point was to say is that, let's say if after the party defeated fate and they exited, things changed and things changed, but because they weren't aware of anything yet, we as the player also playing with them would just think, oh, everything's dandy, let's keep it moving. But as the game proceeds, we start to see what's different. For example, I think it was in the trailer. Think it. I forgot that point. But oh, my bad. So in the original FF7, when you go to the Mithril Mine, you bump into the Lena and Rude. Rude and Elena are talking, but they never fight you. They just, and then Zhang shows up and he's like, go do your mission. And Elena slips and says what is actually supposed to be done, and that's how the party knows where to go next. I kind of like early on was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. They're going to bump into them. They're actually going to fight them. And then they're going to find out what happens next. Kind of go into that remake of how things changes. Remember in remake, I believe you don't fight Reno in the church, but then, I mean, in the original you don't fight him, but in the remake you fight him. So it's like those subtle changes, but I think there's going to start to be like more drastic changes from what we were used to playing FF7 after leaving Midgar, and that's going to kind of support the theory of things did change, just how like Marty, after he changed things in the past, it causes the present to change differently, which inadvertently changes his future. So I think that one change actually affects the whole timeline itself, but we're playing in real time to where we're going to see those changes. I hope that didn't sound too confusing, because like...
No,
I think I got what you were saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I got it too.
Yeah, I think what they'll do is instead of you fighting the giant snake, it's going to be a giant rabid chocobo, and then you have to actually wrangle some snakes to help fight the chocobo. Fight the chocobo for them. That's not gonna happen. But hey, I mean, we're talking about.
I mean,
things
you never
changing,
know,
you
though. The way things are going, you never know. You never know. Faye,
So
you're the
wait,
only one
just
we
to be on
haven't
the
heard
same
from
page.
about the opening
okay.
scene yet. If you want to maybe chime in before we move on.
Yeah, I'm sort of in agreement with all of you, because I don't know where my brain is sort of sitting with it, because as soon as I saw it, I was just like, what? Like, what is going on? Like, what's happening to all these characters? So I guess I just think in general, I think we could be in a 2 different timeline. I think we could be in a singular timeline. I feel like I know this is going to sound a bit crazy, but I feel like we're going to sort of explore all those options in this game in a way. I think it's sort of going to present us with all these different things that are going to sort of confuse us, and then we'll sort of like get to this one singular timeline, I reckon, by the end of this game. I think it's going to take us all different avenues for the most of Rebirth until the end of it.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna end up at like the same destinations like that we do in the original, but it's just things are going to be different, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe like, because I know people were, I mean, we can probably talk about this later, but I know people before even there was a Rebirth trailer out, people were theorizing, well, like, what if like Aerith like survives this time around? And I personally don't think that's going to be the case. It could look different. It could be like Cloud could be the one to like strike her down under Sephiroth's control. That's a thought that I entertained in my head, even though it's pretty dark. And then Zack comes in through the timeline convergence and stops him. You know, again, I think about these things and I'm like, that would be cool, but like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, I think everybody's going to end up exactly where they were in the original. It's just going to look different.
Yeah. I think a lot of the final destinations, final destinations will look pretty much the same. How they get there, probably going to be very different. You know, like one thing I've always toyed with the idea is like when we do go to Gongaga, you know, maybe it's not Zack who's sitting with his parents, but Cisne, because he asked Cisne, keep an eye on my parents for me. And, you know, in OG, we didn't see Cisne having tea with him, but this time we might. You know, it might just be a little something they throw in. Something I really wanted to talk about, which nobody enjoys talking about, I want to talk about Tifa. Because if you're a Tifa stan, you should be scared. And I'm not saying Sephiroth is going to kill Tifa, like switch from Aerith to Tifa like that. I think there are some fates worse than death. So here's like what I've been playing with. Here's kind of what I think's going on. So the only common plot threads we see between the two trailers are this sort of idea of quote-unquote imposter Tifa. She sort of drops that line in the first trailer where Cloud's like, I saw you lying there. I figured it was too late. She's like, so what are you saying? I'm some sort of imposter? Now, in the first trailer alone, that could just be, you could just leave the conversation there and that's that. But then in the second trailer, the final line we get is Sephiroth saying, I killed her, So who is she? Trying to play with Cloud's head. Now, to me, what I think is going on there, if you're Sephiroth and you're on your second lap, this is your new game plus, you know that killing Aerith is not enough. Sephiroth and Genova, they want to break Cloud. What they want to break him for, up in the air. Obviously, control him for what means, who knows right now. But they want to break him. Killing Aerith on the first lap was not enough. Why? Because Tifa was able to rebuild him in the live stream in OG, and in Advent Children was able to help him get over his grief. So if you're Sephiroth and Genova, you're going, we have to break their trust. We need to break Cloud's trust in Tifa, therefore nobody is here to rebuild him. Because if you consider Cloud, Tifa is the only thing he has left pre-Shinra. His hometown is gone, his mother is gone, his dreams are gone, Sephiroth being his hero is gone. The only thing about his identity left pre-Shinra is Tifa, and if Sephiroth and Genova can remove that, then he will break. And I'm not sure there'll be any bringing him back. Those are just my thoughts, and I think they're going to try and send Cloud and Tifa into a very dark place where they don't know what fact and fiction is, and the two of them don't trust each other anymore. Because just as that's true for Cloud, that's true for Tifa as well. Tifa's pretty much lost anything pre-Shinra as well. Yeah, I mean, those are really just my thoughts on that. And the other thing I would say is in the first trailer, when you see the text, what is Sephiroth's endgame? Right after that is when Tifa says the imposter line. So, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I know in the first game, while Tifa was a very important character, her role didn't really kick in until after Aerith died. And I think what the devs want to do this time is put her front and center in the first half of the journey, not wait around for Aerith to be killed off, but instead get her involved for the whole journey.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I was gonna say it's funny because before we got on, I actually rewatched the first trailer and the second trailer, and I started leaning on to believe that when at the end of the trailer where Aerith is like, "I'm trying to find you," and Cloud's like, "You were here with me 5 years ago," and then you even hear the voice that sounds like Zack, like "Sorry." I'm starting to believe that they all were referencing Tifa. It's weird as it sounds, but it's to me, it's like if I take any prior knowledge of FF7 out of my head and I just assume remake, rebirth this trailer, I just thought, could they be referencing Tifa as if she wasn't there? And this is leading to what you said with the imposter theory, where it's gonna cause Cloud and Tifa to have conflicts and not believe in one another when it needs to happen, thus making it easier for them to get manipulated. But then also, I think it could be some Genova mumbo jumbo happening in there at the same time.
Yeah, I think I'm like Landy when you made me laugh when you said Sephiroth's new game plus, because that's so true. Like it's just what it is. But like if I'm Sephiroth, like, you know, because obviously this is not the Sephiroth, the version of Sephiroth that like we know, right? Like this guy obviously knows a little bit more, you know. And we've talked about that before, just casually and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like I think he's gonna go after Tifa. And like I know me and you have had this conversation before where like, yeah, that's what I would do if I was Sephiroth. If killing Aerith screwed me in the end, like, you know,
You might want to change course, you know?
Yeah, you might want to do something different. And that's also why I feel like Sephiroth might try that, but I still think like, because you can tell that Aerith is also aware to a degree of what's going on. We don't really know like what she knows, but you can tell that she's aware. And so that's why I think that, like, you know, Sephiroth might not kill her, but I think she'll still sacrifice herself in the end. And I think like that whenever you're talking about that end, the part in the last trailer with like the Nibelheim scene, and then, you know, Sephiroth's like, who is she? I killed her, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what Sephiroth says in the original FF7. But I want to say that, because all Sephiroth wants to do is just mess with Cloud. And so I think, like, honestly, I think the devs want you to think that that's, like, something like, whoa, like, did he kill Tifa? Or, like, what's going on here? But I actually really think that could just be him messing with Cloud. Because we don't know, like, the context of that conversation, where it's taking place, who he's even talking to. I think that could be just a moment where he's messing with Cloud even more, because, you know, he is trying to break him. And yeah, again, I can't remember, like, all the things that Sephiroth said in his head in the original, but I think that could just be him, just like the original, like, just messing with Cloud.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, for me, when it comes to this, I feel like my question is, does Sephiroth know that Zack is alive? Because I feel like what brings the resolution to the game is Cloud coming to his senses. And Tifa's the person that brings that to him. But if Tifa doesn't, Zack can do the exact same thing that she can do,
Well,
because he knew Cloud for who he was. You know,
and that's
at the
kind of what
time.
I was thinking as well, is if he does do something with Tifa, I do think that would be Zack's new role in this timeline. Like, you know, his biggest role would be to keep Cloud together. I could even foresee him dying to do so. Just
That's what he
saying.
does.
The only
Hopefully
rebuttal
not.
I'd have to that is Zack and Cloud's friendship is still a product of Shinra. And again, what makes Cloud and Tifa's relationship so special is they're the only thing that each of them have in their life that isn't a product of Shinra.
Mm-hmm.
So Zack could do it, but again, I'm not quite sure if he has the same pull that Tifa does. For those
I'm
reasons.
wondering, though, well,
Might
going
not
off
be
of that,
same, but it might be enough to squeak by.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, going off of that,
Yeah.
because, like, you know, at the end of Remake, you know, we see, whether it's multiple timelines or whatever it is, we see Zack still carry, and even in the first trailer, we see Zack carrying Cloud to Midgar. You know, he's walking with him. So I'm, like, wondering, like, okay, like, is their relationship going to deepen, you know, to that point where, well, maybe Zack will be that person to bring Cloud out of whatever, you know, like, maybe something similar happens to Cloud, maybe not, you know, I can't really, again, whatever's happening with Zack, I really do not have a prediction for what's going to happen, because it's like, again, we saw everyone dead on a stretcher, quote unquote dead, you know, in the trailer. So it's like, I don't know where they're going with that, but, you know, going off of, like, what Kitties and Manny were saying, like, yeah, like, I think, like, he could be. But then again, the interesting question that Manny posed was, like, is Sephiroth aware of that? Is Sephiroth aware of Zack? And so, like, that's what I'm not sure of, to be
I think
honest.
it'd be really cool if he wasn't.
He gets blindsided. He's like, dang, I gotta start over again.
But wouldn't it be kind of poetic, though, if Zack died again in service of Cloud? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Remember
really-
about it again, why don't
Yeah.
you?
I had a really funny thought while Andy was talking of the idea of Zack replacing Tifa, and I just thought of that slap fight that Tifa and Scarlet have. And I imagine, like, Zack slapping her.
Oh.
Oh, I
Just,
was
like,
thinking Zack
slapping.
slapping Sephiroth. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's a completely different. Scarlet's not even there. No, we need a slap fight of Zack and Sephiroth, please. Or just a fist fight. Like, just throw their swords away. You know, like, get rid of their materia. Just do it. Let's just have a fist fight. You know,
I almost
that'll
feel like
truly be the moment where it'll go off the rails.
I almost
I
feel like
want him to confront Sephiroth and be like, dude, you didn't answer my emails.
Yeah. The fan mail, bro. He's still getting it.
Sorry.
It's gonna be like absolutely like I'm just generally if there is gonna be like more development with Tifa in the first half of this game compared to like the original, that's gonna be very exciting to see because I I'm personally a very big Cloud fan. Like I love Cloud so much as a character, and it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be even more traumatizing for him to have this sort of dynamic with Tifa, where I guess everything's more heightened. Is like is she actually, could she actually be dead? And is Sephiroth sort of like messing with his mind and stuff? Like, I just find this really fascinating with the whole end of the trailer with Sephiroth going, "I killed her. Who is she?"
Unless he's referencing, maybe he is aware of like this whatever the Zack stuff is, all that stuff going on, and he's referencing them all dying as a result of the tornado, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I killed her," but like that's in a completely different timeline, world line, whatever the heck. Again, all to mess with Cloud, right? So I don't know.
Well, I will say this. I actually think Zack being alive, Sephiroth might know only because Sephiroth connected to Genova, and there are Genova cells inside of Zack. So that might create sort of like a greater awareness. Also,
good point.
Like, consider that maybe Sephiroth's the one who wanted to bring Zack back. Because, in the Singularity, we see Sephiroth absorb the Whispers, who are the stand-in for Fate. So Sephiroth is the guy, quote-unquote, in control of Fate now. And maybe he wanted to bring Zack back because he realizes this would just mess everything up. That this would just throw everything into question.
That makes sense, though, because then Cloud never gets the Buster Sword, and then Cloud never becomes Soldier First Class, and then he never goes on that mission with Avalanche.
It disrupts everything.
It disrupts everything. Yeah.
I really like the idea that Sephiroth could be the one responsible, actually, for bringing Zack back.
Yeah. I love that he's a Zack stan as well. No, I'm kidding.
Well, if he didn't, here's the funny thing. It's like, if he didn't bring Zack back, then I actually think when Sephiroth sees Zack, he's going to have a Cloud-like headache. Because, recall that the Sephiroth we're seeing, at least the one like on Gaia in Midgar, it's like a blend of Sephiroth and Genova. And we lose it in the English translation, but in the Japanese dub, he's using like a collective pronoun when he references himself. However, in the final chapter, at the edge of existence, he starts using a singular pronoun as if he's only just himself. So that's why I almost wonder, because Zack was like Sephiroth's last friend. Like, he was friends with Angeal and Genesis, but they were kind of axed out mid-Crisis Core. Zack was sort of Sephiroth's last friend before his descent into madness. So I almost feel like if Sephiroth saw Zack, it might cause a Cloud-like headache within him as well. And then there's the whole idea of, like, is the Sephiroth we're seeing at the edge of the universe, does he have the same goals this collective Sephiroth Genova entity we has? Like, are they on the same team? Or, that's something else that's just like, I don't want to say confused me, but has had me just asking questions for like well over a year now is the collective Sephiroth and the singular Sephiroth, for lack of a better term, are they on the same side? Or does the singular Sephiroth want to break free of Genova's hold in some way? I don't know, but it kind of throws everything else into a loop.
That actually makes me think. I don't know, like, a lot of what we do when we play Final Fantasy VII Remake, we go into it with the perspective of the original story, waiting to see something that's different than the original timeline. But there's some things I feel like that are assumed that we never really had, I guess, a verification on, kind of like that whole idea with Sephiroth, like you mentioned. Like, we know in the original story, he's like, oh, well, humankind's done this. They've tried to, take the powers of, our ancestors. I'm going to take this power back. So he feels justified in what he's doing. But in this game, what is his end game? Like, what is he trying to do ultimately by bringing potentially Zack back, since he's able to identify what's going on with the Whispers? Or why have the timeline in this sort of way? Like, what is he setting himself up for? So I think that actually is something really cool to start thinking about. Like, what is his ulterior motive? And is this the same Sephiroth that we see in an OG Final Fantasy VII? Or is it somebody with a completely different idea, like you mentioned, New Game Plus? Like he wants to do things differently this time, to see what can happen. So
one thing worth go ahead, Faye.
Sorry. I just made me think of something. Like, I know this might not necessarily be for Rebirth, and it might be for the next one afterwards. But you know how, like, in the original, you fight like Bizarro Sephiroth and Safer Sephiroth. It's like I don't know whether this whole conversation we're having about two different sort of Sephiroths, almost of different alternatives, would just sort of be the end result. So one goal for like one version of Sephiroth would lead you to like Bizarro Sephiroth, and the other one would lead you to like Safer Sephiroth, if that makes sense.
Interesting. I've kind of toyed with the idea that maybe you might need two parties to solve the problem, that we're kind of being led down that road. But I don't know. I mean, that's a good idea. Huh.
Do you think if and when we play as Zack, if and when, right? Do you think he's going to be traveling alone, or do you think he's actually going to have like certain people with him? So, because I'm just thinking like what that would look like, So
I used to think there was going to be like maybe two parties, and that one party would have like, how do I put it? You'd have Zack, you'd have Yuffie, you'd have Vincent, you'd have all the characters from the original who didn't get as fleshed out as the devs wanted. But now that we've already seen Yuffie in the party, the main party, I don't know. Maybe Zack would be alone, but who knows? Maybe he's chilling with the Turks. He had a good relationship with the Turks. I was thinking that too. You know what I mean?
Did.
I was thinking XIII, honestly, might be the person that's actually with them this time around.
Back. She still hasn't told him her real name. I'm like really hoping, in a way, maybe wishful thinking, but I am really hoping we see XIII again.
We have to. We have to.
I would see XIII again.
She's the best Turk. I'll die on that hill. And I've been a rude stan forever, but I don't know. The older I get, the more I appreciate XIII.
All right, random question. If XIII is the best Turk, who's the worst Turk?
Oh,
it's a tough
one. Vincent, bro.
That's a tough one, man.
I love Vincent, and I feel like
there's no Vincent slander here.
Honestly, though, I gotta be real. Vincent, I like Vincent, but the Vincent slander is a low-hanging fruit. He got cuffed by Hojo.
You get that out of here.
By Hojo. I'm sorry. Everyone acts like Vincent is this cool, edgy dude. And like, he is, but it's like he got
the thing is,
by that
I
guy.
I feel like character development-wise, an OG Final Fantasy VII story, when you find out about everything with Hojo and Lucrezia, he just didn't have like that it factor to push through his pain. He just is like, I'm sad, I'm just gonna sleep, Like, I'm just not gonna deal with my problems. Like, never wants to visit a therapist, just kind of wants to be in his coffin on the side somewhere, So it's just like, I don't know, I love Vincent. He's like my favorite character. He's my favorite character from Final Fantasy VII.
Don't tell me you've never wanted to go, like, sleep in a coffin to, get rid of your sorrows, because we've all...
Listen, if I got cucked by Hojo, I probably would be much worse than go sleep in a coffin.
I'm with Landy. I'm sorry, but like, I don't know, like Vincent, I don't know if it's like the drip or if it's the hair or whatever.
It's everything.
It is. But like,
you hush up and be nice to him.
Lucrezia saw something in Hojo that she didn't see.
Bro, she was manipulated too, though. She was manipulated by Hojo as well. So it's like,
Listen, he's a victim. He's cooler now.
He's a victim of his own lack of game.
Hush!
Honestly, if Vincent had better game, he could have prevented all of this nonsense.
Maybe he just dated a better girl.
Would still have a hometown.
Like, I didn't want this to turn into a Vincent roast. I'm so sorry.
How dare you? I love Vincent.
I love Vincent too. That's why I say it.
I love him more.
Tough love, right?
Well, speaking of Vincent, I guess, do you think because of like all the changes that are happening, like, do you think there's gonna be like anything different with like, do you think like Sephiroth you know, changing what he's changing. Like he brought Zack back. Do you think
Mhm.
like you think that like maybe he could like do something with like Lucrezia to like maybe and like I don't know because like I don't know I'm just thinking like do you think something would change with Vincent because like ultimately in my head I'm like okay Sephiroth's like I don't know what his endgame is but like his top priority to me is I just want to mess with Cloud and
Yeah.
so like I can't really see him I guess changing anything involving and like revolving around Vincent but I don't know like I don't know what else
I
he
can
wants.
see.
Because,
I
like,
can.
the whole Hojo thing, and then, like, Sephiroth and Hojo, and, like, I don't know. So, I'm just wondering, like, if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I think we're going to see
talking
Genova
about
mess
him.
with everybody. And I think we saw a hint of this in the second trailer where
With Yuffie?
Yuffie says, get her away from me, and then just runs
Yes.
away. Because I think Genova appeared as her dead mother to her. And she's like, oh, what the hell is that? Like, get her away.
I was going to say,
you know?
I thought it was going to be either she appeared as Nero, especially after intermission.
Mhm.
Yes,
that
but
just
knowing
happened.
Yuffie,
Yeah.
she would want revenge. She wouldn't run with
Yeah.
her tail between her legs. She'd be like, I want
Yeah.
that guy. I want him.
Yeah.
But if you listen
Yeah,
carefully,
yeah.
she says,
Okay, so
get
what if he
her
didn't
away
Her
from me.
away from me.
Yeah.
Oh, her. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can only think of the dead mother. And I think we're
Mhm.
going to see, like, maybe Genova appears to Vincent as Lucrezia. Again, and this was
Yeah.
something I meant to bring up when I was making my Tifa point earlier. Sephiroth morphs. Sephiroth and Genova morph into Tifa in the original game. It didn't really go anywhere after that. It was more of a, I can do this and I want to show you I can do this.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
yeah, don't be surprised if, like, an actual imposter Tifa shows up. If at one point our Tifa gets removed or captured or something, and a sort of
Yeah.
Genova Tifa appears, because Genova has that ability. You know what I mean? And Sephiroth is trying to convince Cloud that the Tifa in his party is Genova Tifa, which I'm like 99% certain that's not the case. The Tifa that's been on this journey with us is the organic Tifa. But it's very clear Sephiroth wants to convince Cloud, like, hey, you know, Genova can morph into the people you love. Who's to say that girl that I swear I killed and that you saw was dead, who's to say that's not Genova?
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're going to see a lot of that manipulation with the other characters as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, what are like some of the little things that Sephiroth can do to alter everything? Like, I'm even thinking about Sid. Like, what if like the I'm trying to remember what is Sid's what's her name? That like his
Shira.
yeah, yeah. Like, what if like
Shira, I think it was.
What? Yeah, Shira. Like, what if that whole thing was originally a success, you know, and like everything went well for him, and like that's something that Sephiroth changed, but then like maybe Cloud and company would not have met Sid. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just thinking of like I don't know. What if Palmer doesn't get run over by a truck this time? Like, you know, there's a little change like that. How is that going to affect the timeline? I don't know. I'm just thinking like, what are some little things that Sephiroth could do? What if Sephiroth brings Seto back? What if Seto's not dead? Right? And then like I don't know, would that change like Red 13's entire thing? You know, I don't know. Like just little things. Like if he is the one bringing Zack back, if he is, we don't actually know. But if that's the case, like what are there other little things that he could do, and like what could those things be?
Bring
It's
back
like he could play a
Avalanche.
part. Yeah, he's like he could play a part on every single character's like his story, like you said with like Red or even like
Yeah,
Barret.
just has to
and
tweak a
everything
small
else.
thing.
Yeah.
A small thing that's you know it's a small thing, but it's very significant to that character. You know.
I think what Sephiroth will do, because what he wants to do, like it's hard to know exactly what he wants to do without knowing his end game. But to me, it seems like he wants to sow seeds of doubt between the party, get them to not really trust each other. So to me, what I think he'll do, and we maybe saw a little bit of this, I think him reviving Avalanche would do that because they swear they all saw Biggs and Jesse die. But if they go to the gold saucer and Jesse's just the lead of the play, Loveless, they're going to be like, wait, are we even in reality? What's going on? What's
Yeah,
going
I'm
on?
real
Jesse's
curious,
supposed
'cause
to
a
be
lot-
dead. Why
A lot of people have been talking about that, and now
Yeah.
that's funny enough. I'm really really anticipating that. Like, when we get to the gold saucer, are we to see Jesse or not? Like,
I think so. I think what might be
Yeah.
trippy is it might be a Jesse who doesn't recognize us.
Mm.
If you can imagine that.
That would be wild.
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean,
I don't
maybe
know,
that was.
It's just so hard to know because, like, we don't know what the hell's going on. One timeline, two timelines, the same past that
And
we
I
left
love
pretty
it.
singularity. I love it too.
love it.
I love it
Yeah.
too. But
I love that it's not. I love that there's so much like. There's so much. I love that, like, it's the same story, but it's not, right? Like, that there is like this Kingdom Hearts level of speculation and theory crafting that's happening with
That's
FF7
Nomura.
remake stuff. Yeah, and so, like, I mean, I think it's exciting as heck.
It's very exciting.
I've got a question for you guys as well. With the 2 discs thing, do we
Mhm.
think it's because of this like 2 timelines, or do we think it's
I knew
because the
someone was
game
going to ask
is so huge?
eventually.
Okay. So I think, yes, it is due to space. However, I don't think they would have told us it was going to be 2 discs just because it was due to space. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's something they didn't have to tell us. I feel like it's hinting at something. I just don't know what.
Well, how big could the game be? FF16 is 100 gigs.
100
one
gigs.
disc.
Yeah.
How big is Rebirth?
Yeah. But that's what I mean is, like, I feel like if it was that big, I feel like that wouldn't have been like a trailer announcement. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I feel like it
Yeah.
being because of space wouldn't be a trailer announcement. I feel like it has to mean
Well,
something.
I'm glad I don't feel as crazy anymore, because I literally made a
Got
video
you.
talking about that. Of like, yeah, it's just off the cuff of my head, and then people were like, "You're wrong, and I'm like, I'm willing to be wrong. Like, most likely, like, it's probably because of space, most likely. But
I'm not saying it isn't,
listen,
but I'm saying it could be more.
unlike a certain portion of the FF7 community, I like to have fun and not with theories. So, like, this is fun for me. Like, it would be kind of meta, right? If they were just like, oh, 2 discs, 2 timelines, like, here you go. I don't know. I think it would be cool. I don't really see them doing that, because, I think it could ruin the pacing of the game if, you are playing as Cloud and company, and then you get your Zack bits, and then you play as Cloud. Like, if that's the way they're going to go, but
what if they don't have it set up that way? What if they have it set up so that you
2
could play
different
through
campaigns.
the first whole campaign, and then maybe the second one is a Zack campaign? Maybe we don't see Zack for the first part of it. Maybe you go back and the second part is Zack or something. You know what I mean? Like, it could be a bunch of things.
Yeah, no, it could be that, let's say maybe it is one timeline, but like one disc is Cloud and the party's journey, and then maybe the second disc isn't as big, right? But it's like, well, here's a disc of what Zack's been doing the whole time.
That will be my favorite disc.
It's a fun theory. I think it's a fun theory.
It could be set up almost like Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep style. You know what I mean? Like, you don't swap the people you're playing as you go through. You do one playthrough, then the next playthrough, then the next playthrough. Like, who's to say you have to be swapping back and forth as you go?
Yeah, and then there could be like a final episode, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
like,
there could be.
That's where the timeline convergence happens.
That's what I mean. But that's what I mean is you could have like an ending where it does, or maybe it just doesn't even converge yet. Maybe that's going to be later. We don't know.
Yeah.
So I will say, in the original disc 2, like disc 1 is like, okay, we leave Midgar and we like start our journey to explore like, the rest of this world. And then disc 3 is literally like Northern Crater fight Sephiroth, GG. Disc 2 is like everything in between. So like, I think if they really want to flesh out the entire world in the way that they say they're going to do it, I think it would require 2 discs to do everything, especially if they're going to be including more backstory to like, other characters like Sid or Vincent as they get introduced into the story.
Well, and like,
I'm still wondering
part of
about
the
like.
game,
Go ahead,
I was
Andy.
gonna say, just like this part 2 that we're in, that's like the meat of the game. So like, it makes sense that it's going to be the biggest part
Correct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I still don't think that would have needed to be a trailer announcement.
I'm
Yeah, 'cause
kind
it-
of
That's all I'm saying.
I'm
Wow.
kind of with Manny in a way, because I remember with remake as well. Like I was actually like going through that all remake cutscenes literally this afternoon, and then remembering the original, and they really like expanded so much with little bits. It felt like remake is like, it's crazy when you think of like how much remake is compared to the original of FF7, when it's actually quite a small fraction of the game, because they
Yeah.
expanded so much.
It's like
and then
6 hours maybe in the original game or something.
yeah, like you think
Yeah.
about like the ghosts in like the train graveyard thing, like they did not expand that deeply of it in like the original game, and just loads of other scenes I can think of from the whole Midgar section. So it's like, when you think about like the end of disc 1 and the whole of disc 2 and everything that goes on, and if they're going to expand it as much as they did with remake in the beginning of, you know, disc 1, I kind of feel like it could be 2 discs, because it's just that big of a game. But there is the part of me that's like, yes, please bring 2 timelines. Let's make it crazy. Let's make it fun. But I also just feel like it could just be that huge because of that.
Yeah. That means it would have to be over 100 gigs at least.
But you know,
because like you said, FF16 is 100. It's gonna take 100 gigs of space on the PS5. You know? So.
But at the same time, where you're right is like, if every location gets the Midgar treatment, then they really are going to need 2 discs.
Yeah.
Not to mention an open world to explore. Not
And
open world, but open world to explore.
I think even just between like there's like at least what, like 15 to 20 different locations that like you go to, like not even counting side quest stuff, you know, like yeah. And especially, you know, like, because I believe that we're going to be going to Wutai as part of the main story.
Yep.
You know, and so like they have to expand that. I feel like
Yuffie would not just mention that her dad is in prison and then have us not go to Wutai and flesh that out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, there's Cosmo Canyon, because we saw like Bugenhagen.
My boy.
And then obviously like, and before that you go to like Corral, and there's so many places that were in. So that I just felt like the game's gonna be so huge.
Dude, what if, speaking of Corel, I was just thinking, I'm still stuck on like the Sephiroth, like changing little things, right? Like, what if like somehow, like, what if like Sephiroth brought Dyne back? And,
or he like never died, you know?
He never died. And it's like, how does that now affect Barret? And then like Barrett's relationship with Marlene and like things like that. And it's, I don't know. I'm just thinking like there's actually a lot of, you know, there's actually a lot of little things that Sephiroth can do that'll actually have a huge impact on these characters.
I was thinking the same thing earlier, the thing that you brought up with like Dyne and Barret, when we were talking earlier about the little mind manipulations that Sephiroth can do to each character.
Yeah.
Dyne and that whole story would definitely be like a Barret trigger for sure.
There's something that he can do to every single character that we eventually get in our party, that just to mess with them, to overall mess with Cloud, you know. There's always that one thing.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but given how tremendously Sephiroth's new voice actor is settling into the role, because I just want to say I thought he did a really good job in Remake, and I think he did good in Crisis Core as well, even though a lot of that was just like retread. The way he emoted those lines in the Rebirth trailer were like bone chilling.
Yeah.
So, not to beat a dead horse, you know, Andy, you talking about how he could sort of manipulate or mess with the other party members. Could you imagine Sephiroth calling Vincent a cuck?
Wait, I didn't know that's where you're going.
How did we get back to this?
Do you want me to fight you?
Landy's just rubbing his hands like, I can't wait to get to this part.
You open the coffin.
I will single-handedly fight Sephiroth if he did that. I would single-handedly. That man would be done.
You open the coffin. Vincent's not there. It's Lucrezia. Now Lucrezia's in your party.
Oh my gosh.
By the
Bro,
way,
stop it, man.
Kitties
Okay,
and Mitties, I just want to let you know,
yes.
I don't know where this started, but my
Manny
chat has a
started it.
running joke that you're subject X, and for some reason it's shown up on this podcast. So I just want to let you know,
Maybe I am.
for some reason, there are a few people in my chat on these podcasts who just think you're subject X. So somebody
Confirmed.
says here, Kitty sure talks a lot about timelines like someone who's been on an arc.
Oh my god.
Wait,
Oh my god.
that is so funny.
I love that. But no. Okay, so you want to know what I do want to see though? And this is something so little and maybe no one else but me cares about it. I want to see Sephiroth do something with Sonon from
Ooh.
like the Yuffie DLC to like mess with Yuffie. It would break my heart so good.
I think Nero's already going to be doing that. I think
Right.
Nero.
He'd
Right.
already done it at this point.
Yeah,
so.
like
Well,
Hey.
we saw him go with him, but
I
yeah.
think Sonon is going to be some kind of boss fight.
I want it to
Yeah.
be.
Like controlled by Nero, you're gonna have to fight
Yeah.
Sonon.
Yes.
They're gonna introduce the underground. They have to.
Yes.
I feel like they have to
want
at
it.
this point.
I want
Like,
it so bad. I want them to hurt me.
Well, that's why I almost wonder if in the final game we might split into two parties. Like you're gonna have a deep ground party and you're gonna have like a Sephiroth party, as in like that's who their beef is with. Because like Yuffie has a bigger gripe with deep ground than she does Sephiroth. Vincent has a bigger gripe with deep ground than he does Sephiroth.
And that's why I really was into the two parties. And I was so hoping that like Zack was gonna run into Yuffie and be like, oh,
too.
well, if it isn't the treasure princess or something. And
Oh yeah.
they would need and then
Aw.
they would need another party member. And then Zack would be like, so hear me out. There's this coffin in this mansion.
Yeah, really, like, Yuffie, Vincent,
Yeah.
Sid, they kind of have like a back seat in FF7. So that would be cool if because we don't know what's going on with them, and if there is two timelines
Theoretically.
happening, we don't know what's going on with Yuffie, with Vincent, with Sid in that timeline. So that could be like Zack's party, or like, yeah, I don't know.
I just
That
want it
is
so
kinda-
bad. I want the Yuffie Zack dynamics because they have the cutest relationship.
But you know what's also kind of interesting as well? Like, I'm sort of like guessing we're going to see him later with more trailers later on, but we still haven't seen Vincent and Sid in any trailers yet.
Oh, they're saving that for.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're saving that one. Yeah.
they are. But it
Oh,
could be
yeah.
cool if to sort of go along with what Kitties was saying. Like, if that's the case of perhaps Vincent and Sid are part of Zack's party, then yeah, we still haven't seen them yet, so it actually still
If
could
they
be
did that,
possible.
I would be the happiest person.
How about a Zack and Yuffie team attack? Because apparently
God,
that is a
yes!
thing. That's a thing that this trailer showed off that I am incredibly excited about, was these team attacks.
She needs to
You know?
say shoo 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 at least once or I riot.
Well, one thing I'm hoping with the team attacks, I hope it's not limited. Like I hope, for instance, everyone has one team attack with everyone, if that makes sense. Like Cloud has one with Barret, Tifa, Aerith, Yuffie. Yuffie has one with Red, Cloud, Barret, Tifa. As opposed to like, oh, you have your Barret, Tifa one, you have your Cloud, Aerith one, you have your Red, Yuffie one. Like, I do hope it like can be exchanged around the whole party. And I will say, like, the most exciting thing gameplay-wise that I saw seems to be a return to an old FF10 mechanic that I absolutely adore, but it looks like you'll be able to swap out party members mid-battle. Because if you look in the trailer during during like that, a Red 13 showcase, Aerith and Tifa are in the background with their like weapons equipped and everything, but they're not in your party. But they're right there on the battlefield, like ready to go.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be the case, and I hope that's gonna be the case, because like, I was just annoyed. Like, I mean, it's an older game, so I get it, but yeah, it is kind of like, oh, okay, I gotta like swap in. You got your PHS, and then you just swap in whoever after the fight. But if
Yeah,
you do
as
it
if the party
mid-battle,
wasn't traveling with you. Like they
right?
had
Yeah.
to make you
Well,
pretend like, oh yeah,
it
we're
would
just
make-
gonna
And
go
then they made
over
me
that way.
feel bad.
Yeah, but it'll make you feel. It'll actually make you feel like, yeah, we
We're
were
all
actually all
together.
going on this journey together, instead of just having like Tifa and Red 13 in your party. Like that was me. Like most of the time, it was just like that was my party at OGFF7, and it didn't. But like with this, because you're right. Like if you look in the background, like you see, I think it was the one that I remember was I think it was like Red 13. I don't know. I remember seeing Tifa in the background, but like Tifa was not in the party.
Mhm.
And it's like, yes, like we want to feel like we are a party, and not just subbing people in and out and like be like, oh hey, I'm here, like whoopee. No, like I wanted to feel like we're actually on this journey together, and it
Mhm.
would be even kind of cool if like. It'd be kind of cool if like, what if like they even when they're not in your party, like they can do like very, very like small things, like
Like you
or
can
they
still
have
do the
like
team attacks.
yeah,
Like,
like
you're
you can
still
still do the
eligible.
team attacks, and then like if you do a team attack, you can like say like you don't want Red 13 in your party anymore, and you've got like it's Cloud, Aerith, and Red, and you did that team attack with Aerith and Tifa, and then that subbed in Tifa for Red 13, or I'm sorry, Tifa for Red 13. And so that's like a seamless way of like subbing in your party outside of maybe just like
Mhm.
calling them in just normally.
Yeah.
And I think that helps a lot because even though Remake's combat is probably my favorite combat in any game ever, the aerial combat was very weak, but that's solved. Honestly, because I can integrate Yuffie's aerial combat was very good.
Yeah.
But
Because Yuffie's the best, objectively.
If-
No, I'm kidding.
if you're, I mean, as far as her skill set in
Yeah.
integrate was insane.
She was the most fun to play easily.
Yeah.
She was so fun.
But if you have the ability to sub people in and out, then it's like, okay, maybe just Cloud and Tifa suck at aerial combat. And if there are aerial enemies, you want your party to be Aerith, Barret, and Yuffie. Instead of it being a crutch for the game, it becomes a strategy where it's like, okay, with aerial enemies, you're probably going to want to bench Red, Tifa, and Cloud and play Barret, Yuffie, and Aerith, who have sort of long-range distance attacks. Or, Yuffie, who's a ninja. And again, that's something straight out of FF10. If there are aerial enemies, you want Waka and Lulu in the party. So
that was something that was hard in remake was like there would be like even if you're doing like a side quest like you just have Cloud and Tifa but like they can't really do aerial combat like so it's like how do you kill these enemies so yeah I think that's where that issue gets solved. It's not by giving them a jump button or anything. It's literally just like, well, you have access to everybody at all times.
Give them the crisis core jump. No, I'm kidding.
I feel like
I'm sorry. I've got like a whole segment in my brain that just feels the need to reference Zack in every way possible.
I mean, you're on an FF7 podcast. It's not like
you're right.
We're not talking Persona or Fire Emblem. You're in the right place for it. All right, so then let me put you on the floor then. With Zack more than likely going to be in this game, like, what do you want from him? Like, we bring him back, right?
Okay.
He already had his story in Crisis Core. We see him having the impact on Cloud and OG. In your opinion, how do you bring a character like Zack back and do this justice without it coming off as complete fan service for the kiddies and middies of the world? Like, how do you pull this off?
It's for me. You nailed it. It's for me. They're doing it for me.
It's clearly for you.
Obviously.
We know you wrote them letters.
Honestly, every day. So honestly, I don't really want them to change his main role. Because if you think about it, his main role in the story was to give legacy to Cloud. I don't want them to change that. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what he's going to do because I don't know what's happening with the timelines, what's happening with Cloud. It looked like he was, in the robe later in the trailer. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but I still want his purpose to be the same. I want him to go out, like, giving Cloud this new chance, if that makes any sense. I want it to be as close to that goal as possible. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but I want him to go out doing that same thing, and I want it to hurt even more this time.
It'll be Cloud.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It'll be Zack saving Cloud from, and this is a theory on a theory, but if that is Cloud going up to the Northern Crater, and the Genova stuff, it'll be Zack saving Cloud, and then that's where it happens. Like here's like he sets him free of that, because we don't know.
But I don't want his main purpose to change, was my only thing. Is I don't want him to do something different or big, or, you know, I don't want him to be the new hero. I want him to do what he did in the original. I just want more.
I absolutely love that answer, because I was really backwards and forwards with like, do we really like need Zack in a way, like back into the story? Because like I loved Crisis Core so much, and I would say it's probably one of my favorites out of Final Fantasy now that I've played, and the ending's just so heart-wrenching, and it's so poetic and beautiful when he's an absolutely phenomenal character. So like I really like agree, like I wouldn't want his values to necessarily change either. So it's like, what would he do? But then you saying what you said, Andy, I'm like, oh, actually, if Zack is the one to sort of save Cloud, if Cloud is in the sort of reunion cloak, and I guess it can sort of answer that, where he sort of doesn't change that much in the way as the character is just doing more.
Everybody is gonna end up exactly how
Exactly.
they end up.
Mhm.
It's just gonna be different, and then
But
it's then where Zack's like, "You're my living legacy here."
Well,
you know,
right.
Yeah.
For the
I don't know.
For the longest time, I've actually felt like the way this trilogy ends, I don't know if everyone here has seen Advent Children. I think that final shot of Advent Children will be the final shot of the remake trilogy. It won't be in the same way. I don't think we're going to go through the whole Advent Children arc, but just to be sure, everyone here has seen Advent Children?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so I won't get into specifics. I won't get into specifics. If you know, you know, because I wouldn't want to spoil that for you, Faye.
I was waiting for one no. That's so funny.
So sorry. I've been meaning to do a Discord night with our community, but we'll be doing that very, 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 very soon, though.
You would love it. You would love it.
Yeah, you'll like it.
But I would say, without getting too specific, the final shot you see in Advent Children with you know who walking into the and one person looking at the I think that's how this all ends. I think it ends in a similar fashion.
I think that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
Everybody ends up exactly where they ended up.
But yeah.
So for me, one of the biggest things is that when they had announced Rebirth last year, one thing that Nomura and Kitase kind of nailed in is that this wasn't going to be the same beat for beat story, and that they were looking to add a new mystery, because the biggest thing about if they did do a one-to-one is that everybody knows what's going to happen, which then takes the fun out of the speculation and the fun conversations. So I kind of went back to what Nomura was saying, and his exact words when asked about new experience, new developments, and why they decided on it. He basically says the mystery New Behind was one of the most important parts of the original game. Is to have players who already played the original relive that mystery. Most would already be aware of it, saying, "Oh, I already know what happens." All they would need to do is replay. With a project of this scale, referring to a remake trilogy, simply remaking the game and better graphics would not make sense. But then he says, however, there will not be any point if the story were to change completely and become something entirely different. The challenge as the developers is they have been working on is, even if we're to introduce a new mystery into the game, how do we make it so it doesn't deviate much from the original game? So basically it's like, I don't think that they're doing subtle changes and we're just playing Final Fantasy VII partially changed. I think they made significant changes, but not significant to the point where it becomes
from the overall
what
FF7 is. Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
so that's
you
why
want to keep it fresh for people who have played the original, but also like, you know, there's people that I know they've never played a Final Fantasy in their life, and so remake was their first Final Fantasy game, and they loved it, knowing nothing about FF7 OG. So it's like finding like, how do you
That was me.
how do you keep it, how do you make it appeal to like you know, a wider audience, you know, who maybe has never played FF7, and how do you keep it fresh and interesting for people who have? And I think they've done a very good job about that. Otherwise, we would not be having this podcast right now, you know, if they were just doing the same thing.
You know, and it's funny you say that. My younger brother is another one who FF7 Remake was his first Final Fantasy, and then he went on to play Crisis Core, and then when he got to the last stand, it's like everything just sort of clicked for him. Like, wait, so this is the guy from the end of Remake? And then he saw how it ended in Crisis Core, and he was like, wait, but that's not what happened in Remake. And I was like, you're getting it now. You're getting it now.
That's amazing.
So funny. Yeah, and it makes me, we talked about this before, but like, they were, you know, the Crisis Core goes into one of the biggest twists in FF7, which is like all the Nibelheim stuff. And so it's like, what actually happened there? And so the fact that, you know, they want you to know Crisis Core because they released a remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, of it. So it's like, what else do they have that they are cooking that is going to be a much more significant or somewhere on par to like a twist or like a mystery as, you know, as the Nibelheim stuff? Because like, they obviously want you to know Zack's story. Otherwise, they would not have re-released. They would not have redone.
You know what
Crisis
else?
Core.
You know what else? And this just popped into my head now. But we were talking about how Zack coming back derails everything, and they even pretty much said so themselves whenever they released like that Crisis Core announcement, when they said his legacy gives birth to Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Like, bringing him back, derails literally everything.
And part 2 is called Rebirth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a coincidence.
Just saying. It was something that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
I was like, they did say that.
Yeah, I think with Zack's character, like the purpose of his character, I mean, I played Crisis Core for the first time when the remake came up. And I feel like despite everything that was going on around him with people like Genesis, Angio, and Sephiroth, he was the only one that stood the course and actually was a quote-unquote hero. And I think that if he were to play a part, just to kind of attest to your point, Kitties, I feel like he would be doing the same way or same thing, maybe in a different way, if he were to be a part of the plot for 7. In some way, shape, or form, he'd be a hero so Cloud can see that example of what that looks like. And that'll give him the motivation to continue to push forward and do whatever he needs to do. And kind of like what Andy said too, I think that the game's going to end practically exactly the same as OG Final Fantasy VII. But they just kind of have us on our toes the whole time, like, oh, what's going to happen? This and that. It's like, ultimately, yeah, we do have Zack potentially in another timeline right now. But overall, most of the stuff is still the same from the end of Disc 1. You have the whole party leaving Midgard together.
At the end of
and
Remake.
It's like, whoa, we talk about a million things, but we're almost in the exact same spot right now that we were before, except for like one major thing that's different, you know? So, I don't know.
Kitties, you look like you were about to.
I got excited. I got excited about something because it was something that Manny said about like setting that example of what a hero is and allowing him to push on further. It brought me back to what we were saying about how doing something with Tifa would break Cloud. Well, what if that is still the case? But what if, like, we were talking about if Zack would have that potential or not, but like, because things might be different, what if like Cloud does break, but what if Zack still saves him in that manner and like shows that example of what he should aspire to be and what he needs to push forward towards?
Price of Freedom remake starts playing.
Yes!
And then it's,
you know,
he ends up exactly where he was before.
You're talking about how it, like what they have might not be enough, but like what if he does break? But like because things are so different, Zack is still able to bring him back and like make him the legacy again.
I'm just wondering, like, how do they? Because I don't think Zack should like stay alive. You know, I hate
No,
to say that.
not at
But,
all.
But I don't think but I'm on the opposite side of that. I'm like, well, how do they make his death? If they do go that route, how do they make it more impactful or just as impactful as they did in Crisis Core? Because that's going to be really hard.
You want to know what I think would
to
be
top.
interesting? You know what I think would be interesting?
Yeah.
So what if instead of Zack dying to Shinra soldiers to protect Cloud, what if Cloud is the one that kills Zack? Like, what if
Yes.
Zack ends up getting killed by
And Randy's like, yeah, man.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, just like
as a way of
Zack
protecting
killed
him?
Angeal, the predecessor to the Buster Sword.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
what about
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
it
hear
would
me
need
out.
to be something at that level.
Hear me
Yeah.
out. Genova gets full control of Cloud. He's gonna axe Aerith. Zack
That's
shows up
exactly-
to save the day.
Yep,
The two
that's
of them
that's
duke it
exactly
out.
what I had in my mind.
Yeah, Cloud wins the fight,
Yeah.
but it brings him back. And
Yeah.
now his guilt is about that. I don't know.
Yes.
Random ideas. But I was
Yes.
very happy
Yeah.
you said that because I've been thinking that
Thank
for
you.
a bit now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, so Cloud's mind control tries to kill Aerith. Doesn't happen because Zack intervenes.
Because Zack
They start
interferes.
fighting, and then Cloud probably kills Zack potentially in that moment. And that's how he dies his honorable death.
Because
and
Zack
then
go all out. Zack's just looking to wake him back up.
To make it even better.
and then Aerith dies anyway the exact same way, and we're
Yes!
back to square
Oh my
one.
god. Oh my
No, I was
god.
Fighting
saying
Sephiroth just like
to make it even better,
That's
you
crazy.
play as Zack.
Yes!
Cloud.
Oh my god,
You
yes!
play as
What?
Zack.
I
And
don't
there's
know.
no
I want
winning.
this.
Have you guys heard people talking about Cloud being the final boss of this game? That
I love
get
it.
you're gonna get to
I
that
love
point
it.
where
I
Yeah.
want this.
he's taken by Genova, he's going to kill
Yeah.
Aerith, and then you have to play as the party to
Safe
fight
for
Cloud.
That would be amazing.
I
Cloud
want
with
this.
abs.
Like-
I want this.
I would actually love. I don't know what I prefer more, like that or like just the idea of maybe even fighting Zack, because it's like, oh my god, like I don't want to fight you.
Oh,
like,
no, you,
we
you
are
got-
no,
you
no,
gotta-
I wanna
you have
fight
to play
as
as
Zack.
Zack.
I want to
Yeah,
fight
I
as
would-
Zack against Cloud
right?
in a way that I can't win again. That's how
And
you
yeah.
give it
To make it even better, you play
Yeah,
as Zack, getting
agree
like
now.
working up to that point, and he's going through a gauntlet of monsters. He might even fight a version of Genova before he gets there. Then he gets to Cloud, and you play as him, but he doesn't win that fight.
You just can't win.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so okay. I actually just want that.
So now here's my problem. Here's my problem. So are there two Buster Swords? What's going on there?
that was what I was curious about too.
Well,
I'm like,
Zack's
so
obviously
what the heck
not
is going
losing
on?
his if he lived, because he wouldn't just hand that over like, oh, here, you can have it. Like,
You know what
I
they
mean?
should do? They should. No, they shouldn't do this. But it's just a fun idea. You play as Zack, and the one moment in the game where you get the DMW or whatever it is, the DMV, whatever they're free.
DMV.
You get the slots, and then and then it's like, okay, it's just by chance. If you get like all of these, oh, you get an alternate ending where Zack lives. But if you get all of these, you get I don't know. It would be stupid. It would actually be stupid.
No,
But
I want
don't
it
know.
to
I think
be.
it's funny.
I want the Buster Sword to be like the Kingdom Key, and I want it to swoop back and forth as it feels like it should.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm kind of curious. I'm interested to see if this does happen. Two Buster Swords.
I want Zack and Cloud to face off, and for the Buster Sword to look at Zack and be like, "Adios, Cloud."
Wait, like it's so confusing with the timeline theory because like doesn't Zack bring Cloud back to
Yes.
Midgar
No.
when he's
Yes.
alive?
No.
So he
Yes.
doesn't?
No,
Is
he
Cloud
doesn't.
just not
It
there?
doesn't make sense
No.
for him to do that just because he won the fight.
Well,
Does not mean
that's
he's
where they
not
were
still a
going.
hot fugitive for Shinra.
That's where he
Shinra's
was
still
going.
hunting him. No, there's
that's where
one
he was
very
going.
simple answer to this, and it's Cisne. Cisne
Fine.
was tasked with saving Zack. Sung gave her
Fine.
the task, you are going to save Zack's life. So, if Zack does win that fight, like we see in Remake, and he is lugging Cloud back to Midgar, again, it's not like he can go walking into Shinra's backyard and be okay. He's still a fugitive. But if Cisne shows
True.
up and takes Cloud off his hands,
That's
because
true.
that's the other thing. It's such a mystery. What
but he
what did
still
Cloud
does make
do?
it back to Midgar because he walks into the
he
church.
was at the church. He was in
does-
Sector
that's
5.
it,
And
he
like,
does make
But
it
he's
back.
the
alone.
logic that'll
He's
tie
alone,
that
though.
together
He
is
is alone,
the
though.
in-between.
But that doesn't
of-
mean that he and Cloud are going to be together forever for the rest of eternity once he brings him back. Like,
Like I think
So
they
like the
split up.
logic that brings that, the logic that brings that together is the in-between. It's like, because
Yeah.
all we see is all the shadows that are over Midgar, and Zack's looking at it.
mhm.
And they show that little scene of Aerith walking by Zack as they're going in like opposite directions, but they can't see each other. And then it
Mhm.
just fast forward straight to Sector 5 Church. We don't know what the heck happened on the in-between. I think that he could have been met by one of the Turks, by Cisne, or something along the
Cisne would
lines
make
of that,
sense.
before going to the church and realizing that
Cisne
Aerith
is
wasn't
in
there.
pursuit of him.
Yeah.
Cisne does her job this time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I kid you not, the first time I played through Crisis Core, I was just screaming, "Where's Cisne?" as we're fighting. The whole time.
But a big mystery too is that like Cloud's timeline is pretty fuzzy too. Whether it's Zack lugging him back or he lugs himself back, how he got himself like cleaned up and back into shape
No
this time
idea.
around. We have a better idea from OG because like Tifa finds him in the subway station. But there's so much that's just like a mystery. How Cloud got back, how he got cleaned up, how he got healthy again, because he's still pretty Mako poisoned when he wakes up to find Zack dead. Like he's not all there,
Mhm.
So they have a lot that they need to like flesh out between the end of
That's why it's
Crisis
on
Core
2
and the start of
discs.
Remake.
That's 2 discs.
2 discs.
You know, 2
I
discs.
was just about to say the same thing. The expansion, 2 discs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I've just been, for me, like, just been most excited about what's going to be different, and of course like the Zack stuff, and like what is Sephiroth cooking. like what is he doing. And I think I'm also just excited to like, I don't know if you guys were like saw this in the trailer, but like whenever you're looking at like your map marker, like there was like a marker that was like the distance from like where you're at to where that objective is was like 11,000 meters or something, and it's like, it's like, how big is like, like, is it
He's
just
walking
like
a long time,
It's gonna
boys.
be big. It's gonna be big.
Yeah. And then how much bigger, or if that's just like the wide linear open world, whatever you want to call it, like the overworld, right?
Mhm.
How much bigger are like the actual places that you go to?
They're not going to be
Corral,
that big
Cosmo
because
Canyon.
they're not going to be that big just because like Midgar is sort of like this gigantic metropolis.
Yeah,
like, it's
Midgar
way
is
bigger
massive.
than anything else.
Even
Whereas-
in the original.
Yeah, whereas Cosmo Canyon will be the size of like 1 or 2 sectors. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I think Gold Saucer might be pretty big.
Yeah.
But I have a question from the chat that I think is for you, Manny, but you're being referred to as the one timeline truther. Who says-
The one timeline truther.
I love it.
Yes,
Subject X and one timeline
truther. That's what we got going on.
I
Um,
am canonically Subject X. What do you mean?
Why would the end of Remake showing Zack Cloud contrast with walking by Aerith if they're in the same timeline? Wouldn't they just be in the same place?
So my response
they-
to that is kind of what Kai talked about a little bit earlier. It's like, I believe in there being one timeline and things are changing as time's going on. But since you're with the present party, you don't see the things that are being changed behind you. So like
Yeah.
the
Or in
thing
front.
with Zack,
Yeah.
yeah, I was about to say, so the thing with Zack,
That thing with Zack
technically on the
happened way
timeline,
before.
I was about to say the thing with Zack happens before. Yeah, I was about to
Yeah,
say the thing
I
with
see what
Zack
you're
happens
saying.
before. Cloud goes to Midgar, meets with the people, and then they leave. So
That's a
as
good
Zack's heading over there, it's like, obviously it's all hypothetical, it's all theoretical at this point. But it's like my idea of like the singular timeline is like it's changing, but the current party can't see how it's changing because they're living the
Because
present
they're
and altering
living in
it
the
themselves. Yeah, they're the ones who are like the beacons of what's causing things to alter behind them that they can't see. And they're going to eventually get caught up eventually. Like, why is Zack here? Like, how is this possible? Or, oh, we didn't even realize that we changed this thing. And even the last fight inside Final Fantasy VII Remake, how Aerith, before they step into that world to fight Sephiroth, she's letting them know, like, everything can change in this moment. You know, like, we're the ones that are controlling our destiny now. and kind of like reaffirming the idea of the like they're the ones like, if we win this fight, things are going to change. We don't know how it's going to look like, basically. And even them showing the flashbacks of Final Fantasy VII OG, you know, flashbacks from the Ab and children scenes to show that like, hey, these things can happen potentially if it goes the original way. But now that it's different, we don't know how it's going to turn out. So obviously it's just theory, but I am 100% a one timeline guy right now. So
and what's funny about that is I remember that there was the one scene where you see Red 13 and the Cubs running along each other, and after seeing that scene, they're like, "What the heck was that?" And then he says, "That's our tomorrow if we fail here today." And from our understanding, that's what's supposed to happen, but that's not necessarily what they want to happen. I don't know. I just think that the idea of the multi-timeline, if it can be executed well, I will not be mad. But it's just from past experiences. Every time they try to implement a multi-timeline, just in general, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks. Every time, nearly every time. So it's like you have to be like some insane good writer. And I'm not saying Nojima sucks, but I want to say the last time Final Fantasy did the timeline was with 13-2. And while I thought it was done decent,
bro, that's controversial, right?
It's like, and then
I'm a 13 7, but hold up, man.
Here's the crazy thing, right? I knew I was like not going crazy when I first played 7 Remake. I was like, yo, this game kind of gives me Final Fantasy 13 vibes. So then I looked at who the director was for the game, and I said Toriyama, searched up 13. I was like, wait, he was the director for the trilogy for 13. So I'm like, wait, hold up. So I'm like, what if 13 and 7 kind of got like similar vibes, right? You know how first thing everybody complained about 7 being linear, remake I'm referring to, linear. So the second game seems a lot more open. Second game for 13 seemed open. I know it was a shorter game, but it was more open in the choices that you could do. So, and the only thing I didn't like about that game is that you technically split off to an alternative time, and then you end up at the end, and you know what happens in 13. I'm sorry, guys, but she dies. I'm sorry.
You didn't even like warn for spoilers or anything.
I mean, he only said she, so you know. We don't know exactly who the she is. Plenty of she's to
probably
go around.
forget about it by tomorrow. It's fine.
But you know, I would just add to that. Like Kai, I actually agree with you. I think when stories break into multiverse, it's usually the beginning of the end. But I think it's possible that if you're doing something that like creates 2 timelines, but by the end those timelines converge, I think that's something that can be done well. I think it's when you start fractionating into infinite universes, you lose the stakes. You lose a lot when you do that. So I'm with you where I'm like, I'm not saying they can't pull it off, but it's a much harder thing to pull off. And the only other thing I would add, going back to the one timeline truther argument, with Aerith and Zack passing each other, there is a motif in Final Fantasy VII that water can carry messages, right? Like think about when Marlene is watering the plant and she sees a drop fall off the plant. She goes, "Daddy?" And then it cuts to Barret calling out to her. Similar thing. What happens right before Zack and Aerith cross paths? Rain starts coming down, you know, sort of to deliver that message. I think something similar can be argued in the original when Cloud lays Aerith into the body of water. But there is this motif that water can carry a message through time and space. And I'll just leave it at that.
Wait, since we're on the subject of like other games, I was actually just talking to Andy about this theory that came up like 2016, I think, about the Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII taking place in the same universe.
It's true.
It's like, because Shinra, literally Shinra, like the OG dude with the weird little scuba diving helmet is in the exact same picture inside the the Shinra building inside Final Fantasy VII, and I don't think that's a coincidence at all. So my idea was, if the Cetra, they were basically journeying from planet to planet. So it becomes something that's more of like a universal thing as they're like going through different planets. What if one of the planets that they like venture to, like I'm assuming that this is going to be some huge intergalactic chase at some point, all the way at the end of the game, trying to catch Sephiroth. We just jump to different planets basically. But like, what if one of the planets you go to, it's like you see remnants of like Xanon? Like, how dope would that be? Like, just like, it doesn't have to obviously have a huge convergence of the two worlds, like in a sense where, oh, we want the characters together, but just to show an homage to that, to confirm, like, hey, this is actually true. Like, these universes are together, you know, they're at the same time. I think that'd be pretty cool to just showcase something like that.
I think you might get something like that, but what you're probably more likely to get, the final FF7 game is done, story concludes, and then there's just this after credit scene of a blitzball on the beach and the tide going in and the tide going out, and it just says coming soon. And that's when they finally make Final Fantasy X-3, because Jesus,
No,
they
I
need
was
to
gonna
do it
say-
already.
I was gonna say-
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's your return to Destiny Islands, and it's a new Kingdom Hearts.
Yo, I was thinking that too. I'm like, what if you just like this huge foot next to the blitzball and it's Sora shoot?
I feel like that's probably possible. Like an after credit scene of just sort of hinting, if whether it's 10, whether it's a 9 remake, whatever Final Fantasy it is, like they could just sort of hint that more remakes are coming. That would be pretty nice.
That'd
I
be
think.
really cool.
Well, they have the
Your
script.
9 remake.
9
Yeah, I was about to
remake,
say
which-
the NVIDIA
when,
leak.
Kai, when
That's
are we
still
going to
accurate,
see
I think.
something, man? You're my 9 remake guy. When are we going to see something?
Hey, maybe next month on the anniversary for Final Fantasy IX.
Okay.
Oh damn. Okay.
Keep my fingers crossed, man. But no, I mean, look, they've had the script for Final Fantasy X-3 for the longest time. They've wanted to do it. And I can't imagine they finish this remake trilogy and then don't move into that, because it's the same crew, you know? Kitase, Nojima, Nomura. I don't know if Toriyama was on Final Fantasy X, but it's the same crew. I don't know. I know it's a story they want to tell.
Rumors of them remaking Final Fantasy X.
Doesn't need a remake. Doesn't need a remake.
Well,
It's still an incredible game.
I mean, I haven't
It's
played
like
it yet.
almost a perfect
like,
game.
It's
yeah.
literally
I haven't
almost
played
a
it yet,
perfect game.
but like,
Mhm.
but I was just thinking, like, okay, if like, think with me for a second. If they're gonna do a 10-3, right? If they're gonna do a third installment, you know, what's that going to visually look like? And is that like, is it going to be like? Because the way that I see it was like, you know, I haven't played the game yet. I plan on playing it this year. I have not played it yet, but I could see them doing like some kind of remake, and then it's like, oh, here's 10-3, and then it's in like that style that they did like a remake in. You know what I mean? Because it's like how do you just come out like how do you come out with a sequel or another? I'm sorry, like a third installment, but
I mean, they
like,
technically
visually appealing and like.
they technically
Horror.
almost
It's-
did that with like Kingdom Hearts in a way, even though like it was like developed like for all that time. Like the difference in time between 2 and 3, I'm not counting every other game in between.
When did
But-
10-2 come out though?
They like 2000.
2000s, like super early, I think, right?
Yeah, because that's
Early
a
2003.
big. That's a big jump. Like that's 20
2003.
years.
Yeah,
Like,
for
Oh, no.
10-2,
Yeesh.
right?
Wait, it released
like-
in North America before Japan? Oh no, Last Mission is 2004. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
2003.
like what I was like from my perspective was like that's like 20 years. Like with Kingdom Hearts Studios, like they announced it really really early, and then it was like in development for like they switched engines in like
6 years.
it was like was it 6 years? Yeah, something like
Almost 6
So like
Yeah.
if that makes sense, right? I'm just like I don't know how we got on the FF10, but like,
Hey, I mean, I'm not complaining if we're here, man. That's a great
yeah.
game.
But that's kind of what I was thinking of, like, you know, how do they do that, right?
I feel like they'll modernize it, like,
Yeah.
and to make it look like up to the standards nowadays. They're probably building like Unreal Engine 5 or something like that. But I know, like, with development processes, like 15, good lord, that was in like development hell for God knows how long. Like the game literally
Nomura.
changed so many times. Like so many people on staff got changed throughout that game. And what we ended up with was a half-baked project that we still don't know the full story to, because they didn't even finish releasing all the DLCs that they planned to release, like Luna Freya's DLC or Noctis's DLC. But it's like remnants to a good story, and that's a completely different topic. But they kept modernizing the game because the development was taking so long. And then we got something like, and even though the game came out years ago, it still looks amazing. Like if anyone hasn't played 15 before, it looks so good, honestly.
I played a little bit of it. I was like, okay, all right, this could have been a early PS5 game.
Yeah.
Without giving it away, as someone who enjoyed Final Fantasy 15, that was the most beautiful looking, I'm not going to say who, but the most beautiful looking death scene I've ever seen. But I couldn't have actually cared less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like visually, it was stunning, but I
Bro.
felt nothing.
Bro. Like I can roast the crap out of that game for
It's like the opposite of the Aerith death. Like it couldn't. The Aerith death is polygoned and like 12 frames per second, but it just hits you.
Yeah, 12 frames.
Even watching it over, and then they have all the tech in the world to give you the most beautiful visuals, and then you're just like, oh.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah,
Anyway,
You're like, I don't care.
I felt
No
like I was
attachment.
just getting to know you.
Yeah.
And now
Bro.
you're gone.
But Final Fantasy 15 does have, in my opinion, one of the best written villains of all time. And I
Yes.
He technically wins. Like, so I don't want to spoil anything.
I wouldn't say that because of the. Well, I guess
only got the
yeah,
shot.
I do. It's not. Yeah, we won't talk about it.
Shush.
All I'm saying is, bro, those DLCs, bro, every single one made me emotional.
The DLCs for FF15 were
the actual base
Were
game.
incredible.
I'm like, I don't know what that, like, I know what's going on, you know, but like at the end, I didn't really feel too much. It's like, oh, Gladio just randomly has a sword. Okay. You know, like, oh,
Where did
like,
you get that from? Yeah.
when did Ignis go blind? Like, how did this happen? You know, and it's just like, but then when they fill in the gaps in the DLC, you're like, holy crap, this story's amazing, you know, and it's like, it's just unfortunate that they had to like flesh it out so late for the game.
Yeah.
And that's why FF16 took like 2 years to polish itself. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the voice actors are like, oh, we recorded our lines like 3.5 years ago. We've just been waiting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And voice acting is typically one of
Damn.
the last things that are done
Mm-hmm.
in game
Mhm.
development. Yeah. So it's like, dang.
Well, I
Like,
think, again,
love that.
people here who have played 15, we all seem to have enjoyed it, think it's a good
Mhm.
game and all.
It was my first Final Fantasy, and it's still
Yep.
like my even. I played it when it came out,
Mhm.
when it was.
It's a different game now.
right?
It's
Yeah,
a different game.
it is. But I still love it. I still love it's my trash. I love it.
It's my
You know.
It still blows my mind when people are like,
Nightmare.
Final Fantasy 15 was my first Final Fantasy game. I love the series. I'm like, you don't even know what the series is. like, what the heck?
It's like, well, if you made it this far, you'll be fine going backwards.
Yeah, it only goes up from here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I went from 15 to 8, and I was like, "This is way different." Like,
That is a weird
Yeah.
jump.
yeah.
Holy
That was like
crap.
the one that I had.
Jump.
That was the one that
Story-wise,
that was like the
I
one
would
that I
say-
had access to.
I would say story-wise, every Kingdom Hearts enjoyer would love 8's story because like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
going on.
It's
story.
Yeah.
Like,
I bought 8 on my Xbox. I might play it soon.
do it.
Yeah.
That's Kai's way of saying no
Honestly-
spoilers, by the way.
I'm like on the. I know I've heard like it probably won't happen because of like licensing, but I'm just on this hype for. I really want an 8 remake so bad out of like all the Final Fantasy games that could potentially be remade. Like I'm personally just. I really want an 8 remake. I really
I-
do.
Mhm.
As someone who loves Final Fantasy VIII, particularly, I think the character designs are some of the strongest in the series. That's the ugly sister of the PS1 era, Faye. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I know. I don't think. No, honestly, I don't think it is going to happen at all. I've got very little faith it will, but I just deep down in my heart, I think it really.
It's just in a
Really
tough spot. I mean,
yeah.
to be
If
sandwiched
you
between
dream about it every day for years, maybe eventually.
maybe eventually. But it's tough. I mean, when you're sandwiched between 6 and 7 behind you and 9 and 10 after you, like that is the toughest placement in the whole like discography. It's rough.
Yeah, no, for real.
It's rough being an FF8 fan. I think I saw something that was somebody tweeted something out that was like FF8 could always use some new creators. We've got like 12 fans and 6 theories. Which is a shame because like if you really get into 8, you could speculate about so much.
It never ends.
Yeah.
It
Here's
literally
the
never
thing.
ends.
Hang
It
on.
doesn't stop. It's too much.
Here's the thing, though, and I mean, I know Kai is a big Final Fantasy IX fan as well. So like, I'm not saying anything bad about these games.
Uh-oh.
right?
Go for it.
Here it
Andy,
comes.
you watch
Here
your
it comes.
tongue.
He prefaced
Okay.
it. You know something
For
bad's
me,
about to happen.
this is just me personally. Okay, I played 7, 8, and 9. Okay, not in that order, obviously, but I played like looking at those 3 games. I remember enjoying 8 a lot. I remember loving 9 more than 8. But the problem
Same.
for me was those 2 games weren't for me. This is just for me. They weren't super memorable for me. I remember loving them and loving playing them and loving the characters and the story, but I can't like really. It wasn't. Because I'm trying to bring it back to FF7. It wasn't as memorable for me as like the stuff that they deal with and how like in FF7 and how those characters are done and written. That's just me. I know they're great games, but that's just how I feel. Like I would not be confident going on a Final Fantasy 8 or 9 podcast because I played the games, but like I remember very specific parts and like that's just me.
Well, you know, FF9 doesn't give a lot of leeway to any sort of theory or sort of like rabbit holes. Like FF9 is very much, it's telling you the truth. There's no unreliable
straightforward.
narrator.
Yeah.
And
There's
that's
none
what's great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, my opinion, Final Fantasy IX is the best ending in any Final Fantasy game ever.
Final Fantasy IX had a very good ending.
way it
I would
ends-
Out of the games that I played, I would agree with you.
Which is funny, Andy, I think it was on one of our recent episodes we did, kind of talked about how like the OG FF7, the ending's a little stale.
And
You know,
that's
It
something
is.
that I hope
It
they
is.
change with the remake trilogy. I hope
Well,
there's
they
like
are,
some
like-
closure
Yeah.
and like that there actually is an ending. Because there was like there wasn't an ending. And it was just like, oh, we beat Sephiroth at the end, and then like here's Red 13 with his kids, like however many years later, and here's the planet. It was like what? Like
Well, I
we
mean,
need,
look,
an
like
ending.
as Kai brought up earlier, Red 13 had the vision of the end of OG, and he was
Yeah.
like, that's our future. If we fail here today, and we didn't fail, so we're not headed towards that same ending.
Yeah.
I think originally the devs wanted it, because like if you look at the history of FF7, its development was so rushed. They compromised on their vision a million times. Like Yuffie, Vincent were not supposed to be optional. They were supposed to have full arcs.
Yeah.
You were supposed to go all through Wutai. Again, that's all neither here nor there. But they were, and I think that's the reason why they're doing the remake this way. That's why I think if we get an FF9 remake, it'll probably be closer to shot for shot. Because to me, when I look at FF9, I don't see a game that was compromised. I see a game where the devs got to do what they
knew what
wanted
they
to
wanted
do.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with FF7, between its rushed development, I mean, look how closely 7 and 8 came out on top of each other. They're the same studio. They're the same writers, directors, you know? And they're right on top of each other. The development times for those games were very short. So I think the reason why the ending is just kind of vague and half-baked is because that's all they really had time for, you know?
Yeah. Oh, can I add? So yeah, I read into like kind of 9, and 9 had development issues in the sense that they weren't able to fully do the ideas that they wanted. There were like some cut mini games. There was even this thing talking about how they wanted to do more free movement in battle, maybe similar to Chrono Trigger. And I've read a bunch of stuff where they even talked about why the characters were shorter in comparison to, say, 8, because when they finished 8, they tried using the know-how that they gained from like the FF8 team, but then they had issues with it. And I believe also, I don't know how many disc 8 had, but I know 9 had 4 disc, and they were having issues with data limitations, so they couldn't fit everything. They had cut the shrine battles for the other teams, so you only played with Zidane and Quina, and like you said, the ending for it is pretty good. There's just one thing that I was always confused of, but for anyone who never played the game, I don't want to go too much in detail about that.
Well, let's pause. Has everybody FF9?
Oh,
Okay. Go on, Kai.
I'm like on the end of disc 3. I'm actually currently playing it, so I'm at the end of disc 3.
All right, I ain't gonna say anything about that. But but I think like you said, it's like the problem with the PlayStation era, it was data. They got to that point where they had to like just cut stuff, and just so they can meet the data limitations. But just to go back to what Andy said, you said 9 had no memorable moments.
I didn't say that.
no.
I said it wasn't
my
as
bad.
memorable for me.
Yeah.
Nah,
Guy
Andy,
said
you
those
totally
are
said
fighting
that,
words,
You
bro.
totally said
Oh,
those
yeah,
were
okay.
words,
Andy's
man.
grilling me now. Yeah.
Because for me, right, first
Yeah.
time I played this game is like 2000, so I don't want to age myself, but
Yeah.
we talking like 23 years ago, and the scene where they finish the end of disc 1, the boss, and you see Kuja walk up, and then he walks away, and his theme comes on. Let's just say when I first heard Sephiroth's theme, the first thing I thought of was Kuja. So
Oh,
for me,
yeah, gotcha.
so for me, I've always kind of liked his character because it gave that
I think
menacing
Kuja's
villain.
I think he's a great villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite moments from 9 is that part. Just every time I play the game and I get to that part, I'm like,
Those exact noises?
yeah, yo, those exact noises.
Exact noises. I love it.
But yeah. Nah,
Oh,
there's
I
other
can't wait to finish 9.
Noises.
I'm loving 9 so much.
My problem is I get into this rut of replaying the Final Fantasy games. So I've replayed 13 probably the most of any other mainline Final Fantasy game. And I know people get on that game a lot, but like not too long ago, like within the last few months, I just replayed through 13, and I need to replay 9. It's been a while since I've done it. I know we're on Final Fantasy VII. I do want to play through the full game before Rebirth comes out. Just to show how die-hard of a fan I am trying to be for 7, I went ahead and bought Dirge of Cerberus, and I started playing that. And I'll be honest with you, I heard people complain about the game, but I played the first stage, I want to say a few weeks back. I didn't have no problems with it. So hopefully I continue. I bought a PlayStation 3 that could play PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games. So that way I can actually get the original disc if I want to of games, which makes it a lot easier to just play. Because I don't like the idea of emulating if I can get the original disc. So
Bro, Dirge is, man.
Dirge of Cerberus is very good. I like it a lot.
I feel like it got a lot of hate because it's in the shadow of Final Fantasy VII. Like,
Yeah.
I would say the actual mechanics of the game feel wonky at times, just
I
like the
wouldn't-
actual combat.
But it's
But
still a great
like,
game.
following the story, it can feel a little all over the place at times, in my opinion. But like, I think it's worth the play 100%. Like, I think it does get a lot of hate alongside Final Fantasy 13. Funnily enough, I just did another playthrough of Final Fantasy 13 just this
Let's
year.
go.
And bro, I don't know what it is about that game. That game is like an acquired taste. It just gets better over time. Like, this is probably my third time playing through the game.
The thing
And-
about go ahead.
No, I
You're
was just
looking
going
at
to say, I can see people's complaints about things in the game because you're going from Final Fantasy 12 and 10 to 13. It's like literally night and day. Like 12 is like a hybrid MMO practically. 10 is like what people consider to be the last like Final Fantasy game before they start experimenting with a lot of different ideas and stuff like that. 11, we're just going to skip it and not really talk about it. It wasn't bad, but it's just like, it was an MMO actually, so it was completely different, in its regard. But 13, I actually liked the story. I felt a lot of attachment to the characters throughout it. I think they did an amazing job of building the side characters up, and it's like it almost reminds me a little bit of Persona 5. I started playing that a little bit. Of like how everybody has like, that, or I don't know what it's called, like their awakening or whatever, something like that. It's like really similar in Final Fantasy 13, and you get to get a deep dive into their backstory of like understanding their struggles and what they're going through and what they're trying to overcome, and everybody has a similar goal. So when I was playing through it, I'm like, yeah, it's like straight path simulator until like chapter 12 or something like that. But like the story is actually pretty solid, and I was engaged for most of the time. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, all I was going to say was basically echo what you said. The story and the characters were never the problem with Final Fantasy 13. I, like you, super attached, like just rewatched the cutscenes like maybe like a month or two ago on a whim. And I was just like, man, I want to replay this. But the issue with 13 so much is that it's like, in terms of a game, it's the least Final Fantasy, just because like Final Fantasy is supposed to fill you with like this sense of adventurous wonder and exploring new places. And like you go from town to town and there's like no NPCs to talk to. Everything is just bland and dry. It's like stale, like every hub is stale bread. And just to bring it back to FF7 for a minute, what I think made Remake so good was that Midgar was like this breathing entity where like, depending on what side quests you were doing, the dialogue of the NPCs around you was changing, depending how far in the story you got. Like you first walk into Midgar and people's like, who the hell is this guy? Oh, and they're like, oh, that's the guy who slayed the beasts over there. Oh, it's just like the way Midgar evolved as you evolved. And I don't know, it just seemed like they learned their lesson from that. So if they ever did remake or remaster FF13, and I think that's why it seems to be such a delay of porting these games to modern consoles, because they might want to try and do their due diligence of like, okay, when you're in a hub, there's going to be NPCs you can talk to, and they'll be able to offer you information for your journey, or maybe they know something you don't, because that's just something that's so typical to a Final Fantasy. Hell, you even see it in the FF16 demo, So I don't know. I'm someone, I have love for the FF13, at least the game. I really haven't played the sequels. But as a game itself, it is lacking in a lot of the things you've come to expect from a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
But we're coming up on 2 hours.
Dang, boy.
Oh, damn.
Was there
Oh, God,
anything
it is 2
FF7
hours.
related that we haven't talked about that we maybe want to dive in on?
Did we talk about whether we think... I know we did talk about whether we think Aerith's going to die.
And I do think she will. I think it'll be third game, final battle. That's what I think.
I think.
Wait, that holds weight. I think I had something similar, actually the same theory. I think she's going to be one of the very few people who identifies that there's differences as they're going through time, because she was the one that initiated saying time will change. And she's probably going to come to the end of things and realize the only way for this to be done right is for me to do what I originally had to do.
And I
Which
wonder
is
if
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my other thing I was thinking, I think Bugenhagen is going to be another one who kind of might be aware of like what's going on. And so I'm thinking like whenever they go see him and then he breaks everything down, I don't know. I think maybe that'll kind of get Aerith thinking a little more. And I still think she could. I think she could die in this one, just because like if I personally think that the game is like, I think what they're gonna do is I think you're gonna get to the city of the ancients. It might play out differently, but I think she still will die. And I think how the game ends with Tifa and Barret in jail, and they're about to be executed. And they look up to the sky, just like the ending of Remake when Aerith looks up to the sky. They look up to the sky, and then they say something, and then bam, credits roll. Your characters are at their absolute lowest, which is what I think.
Oh, that's where we're headed.
Would be, yeah, and I think that would be, if we're doing a trilogy, you know, I think that would be a great place to end it, so that whenever you pick up part 3, it's like we're getting everybody back, and
it's Return of the Jedi.
You know, it's Return, yeah.
Yeah.
This is
so
the
weird
Empire
to me.
Strikes. This is Empire Strikes Back. That's what this is. That's what
it's so weird to me, because like Disc 2 in the original kind of ends sort of on an upswing. Like that moment with Cloud and Tifa sitting together that one night when they're like, visit your loved ones, you know, before, you know, we go into this like final battle or whatever. I can't remember if it's Disc 2 or Disc 3, but it's like an upswing leading to what they know is inevitable, which is that showdown with Sephiroth. So I would love, actually, I love sad endings when it comes to a continuation of the story. Like if part 2 ended on a low, that would be pretty dope. And then to like say, okay, how is this going to be resolved on the 3rd disc? You know, and it's not just going to be some northern crater, go back, do side quests. They're actually going to have a fully fleshed story for us that leads us to those final moments.
Did they also say like a while ago in like some kind of interview where they were like, well, we want to, actually it might have been whenever the first Rebirth trailer dropped, where they were like, they were kind of taking inspiration from popular movie franchises of how they want to do the trilogy. And so immediately I was thinking of Star Wars, because I know Nomura is a Star Wars fan, and I know he's on this project. I can't say much about the other, you know, the other devs, but I don't know. I'm just thinking like, and you know, one of the most popular trilogies out there, right? Like that, I think did that pretty well. I think that's where they're going. Like, I think that's where they're going. I think the City of Ancients will be maybe the climax, right? It might just be changed a little bit. I don't know, but like, yeah, I think part 3 starts with, I think actually the tutorial part 3 is going to be the attack on Union Harbor. I think that's going to be the tutorial. I think they're going to thrust you right into it, and that's
I think
part. Yeah.
Just to add to what you're saying, I think this game ends with Cloud being Genova possessed. Because just in the spirit of how they like to do things for, say, Kingdom Hearts, you're going to need a reason to reset Cloud to level 1, right?
Sure.
Because you're not going to let the player level up to level 99 and then start Disc 3 just slashing everything one hit. You need a reason to
with
send
no
the player
explanation
back.
as to why. Yeah.
You know, honestly,
I'm kind of in agreement with that.
And I think people need to prepare themselves, because people are going to be, when I say people, I don't want to generalize too much, but I think some people are going to be very upset with how this game ends, because nobody likes an unhappy ending.
False. I like unhappy endings.
I kind of do too.
See, there you go. I generalized a little too much. Some people don't like unhappy endings, but as you kind of laid out, Andy, that's where we're headed. And if I think of other popular trilogies, right, like Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, or Batman the Dark Knight,
example.
Like those had pretty rough endings. Like they weren't happy, you know?
Right.
So
they're not supposed to be there, because that's not the end, right? It's
and it'll keep us on the edge of our seat, because like, I need this 3rd game. I need to make everything right again.
Exactly.
I need to make everything right.
Or
again,
they could do something super like, they could even do something super like cliffhangery, and this, like what you were saying, Cloud's possessed, and then it just ends. Or like, even it could even do something horrible where like, I don't know, Sephiroth like falls from the sky, he's about to kill Aerith, fades to black or something.
Imagine if they did that.
Just for years, you're like, wait, Is it changing? Is it not? Or like I don't.
Okay, so imagine
vile
you-
for that one.
the party spots Sephiroth just beginning his descent. It cuts to black. He goes 7 seconds until the end.
Well, dude,
And then the credits just roll.
if you go back, and we might have talked about this before, but if you go back and you count from the moment that Sephiroth like starts descending to whenever he stabs her, it's exactly 7 seconds in between. Exactly 7 seconds.
No
So
way.
it's like, yeah, like just go find it for yourself. Go look up that scene. Go count yourself. I must have done it like a dozen times because I wasn't convinced. But it's like they're thinking if that's what he's referring to, and they're thinking that in depth with like where they're going and the little teases that they're putting in 7 Remake and Rebirth. I don't know, man. I think we have an idea of where Rebirth could end, right? Like no one's saying it's gonna end at like Cosmo Canyon, you know, like we have an idea of where it's going to end because of the original, but because that things are changing, there's that mystery involved. We don't know. Like we do, we have an idea, but we really don't.
And now that just made me think, it's possible this game ends where Cloud's in the wheelchair and he's broken, because that's another good way to sort of reset him. And
To
then
reset him, yeah.
And then the third game picks up, and the tutorial is you like as Tifa walking Cloud through the Nibelheim incidents.
I like that a lot.
To sort of
actually.
like set everything straight. So it's like the third, whereas disc one, like game 1 and game 2, were all about messing with your head. What's fact, what's fiction? Like game 3 starts out right away like, nope, these are the facts. We're going to go through the live stream. We're going to rebuild Cloud. We're going to go to the Nibelheim incident. And these are the hard facts. And that's like what game 3 is based around entirely. Just getting to the bottom of everything. Whereas the first 2 games are throwing everything into flux. Yeah.
And I think by the third game, they are going to, I think that's going to be all at the very beginning, right? They're going to there's not going to be really any mystery anymore. It's like we're laying down all the facts. We're doing all of like the reveals, I guess, that we're going to get out of the way. And then it's just full send to the end, this massive climax. And it's just a roller coaster from there on out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I see it playing out. I'm with you there. All right. Anything else?
Just a little small thing. You guys know in Remake and in Integrate, they have this box mini game where you only played it as Cloud and Yuffie, to my understanding. I want them to bring that back, have it at, say, the Gold Saucer as a mini game, but everybody in the party can
Crash
participate.
Bandicoot.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Because
just give everybody a spinning move. I'll be happy.
Because at this point, it makes no sense how I play that mini game way too much. Every time I stream 7 or just anything, I'm playing that game.
Bro, Olivet is blowing up on you in the chat right now. He's blowing up on you.
Because I think I even did a stream the other day and I was playing that game.
Like just Whack-A-Box? You did a Whack-A-Box stream?
I do the Yuffie version, so I like the Shinra
That's
box one
amazing.
better.
Yes.
So I'll stream, I'll talk, and then I'll just play that.
I love that.
I'm like, if you guys don't watch, it's a couple people. I understand, but I would like for us to get mini games, and maybe this might be wishful thinking, but because of like how addictive I'm saying I'm to that game, perhaps they can add a leaderboard and they can add a randomizer to it, to where it's actually like maybe like an insane different layouts, to where people could compete for like a say high score, and it can go on the leaderboard. Take the thing away from say 16, the leaderboard idea, so that way not even just that, but all the mini games in Gold Saucer, people can compete for, kind of to have like a multiplayer element to it.
I
That's
just
your
wanna
big wish.
play
That's your big
1v1
wish
in
for
Whack.
Rebirth.
That's my big wish.
Competitive
And-
whack-a-box.
I just like want to add to that because like I love how they did the Honeybee Inn compared to like from the original
Oh,
with
yeah.
remakes and how amazing that was.
Mhm.
So
I like that they actually made you go there. Like in the original, it was optional. You didn't
Yeah.
actually have to go. You actually have to go inside, but they actually made you go there in remake.
it's like I'm just thinking like how much they're gonna like I don't want to say improve, that's not the right word, but how much they're gonna like do it with Gold Saucer, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's something I'm finding really exciting. I'm like, oh my god, what's Gold Saucer gonna be like?
If they can
If
make
Honeybee Inn was like that.
if they can make the FF7 Rebirth Gold Saucer like the FF14 Gold Saucer,
The
yeah.
14 gold saucer, bro. I put hours into
Dude,
that.
the amount of
crap.
time I like this is why I'm not gonna be too hard on Kai, because the amount of time I've spent playing triple triad in the FF14
Bro.
Golden Saucer, the amount I
Wait.
could have accomplished in my real life.
Wait, did you get the triple triad mount at
Yeah,
all?
of course.
Like, you are insane. That grind is like I heard it takes like over 100 hours just triple triad.
Maybe I played more than I thought.
It took a long time to get that mount. Not many
Are there
people have
multiple
it.
mounts? Are there multiple?
I think
mounts?
there's multiple triple triad mounts.
Okay, so maybe
if I'm
I
not
didn't get the
mistaken.
big Kahuna.
Okay,
I
yeah.
can't. Yeah, because I was gonna say like I don't think I've done that much.
Yeah, I haven't touched triple triad in a while. I just do the jump events
Oh,
that
the
they
jumping
do.
one. Yeah.
Yo, those
That's
are
fun.
fun, bro. Just seeing people fall off like crazy while they're just jumping around is so funny. I love that.
Hell yeah. All right. I think this is a good place to wrap up. I don't know if anybody has any other ideas, but it's been real. I've had a good time.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a good
Yeah.
time?
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I didn't fall
amazing.
asleep.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up here. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out, hanging with us. I know there wasn't much chat interaction in this one, but you know, when it's more than just my stupid ass, you guys know how it goes. But anyway, we're going to raid Kyora over on Twitch. So if you're hanging out on Twitch, please stick around for that. And if you're on YouTube, they haven't added raid functionality yet, which is a damn shame. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's been a good time. We'll be back sooner than you think. But until then, peace out.